Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Good afternoon, my wonderful people, and welcome back to another fun-filled episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. How are you all doing, folks? Because I know that I've been doing fine, and what an exciting week that we have had. Plenty of action that's been going on, plenty of discussions and plenty of talks that's been going around, especially in regards to social media, because oh boy, I guess you could say right now, what, for better or for worse, it's never been a dull moment, whether it be on Facebook or on Twitter, especially when you never know, it could be the final days that we are witnessing there. But also, we have seen plenty of excitement going around, especially with what's been happening in the United States with their midterm elections, where they kept on predicting, oh, there's going to be a red wave, there's going to be a red wave. But it actually never happened. Democracy is saved, especially thanks to the Gen Z people, in which now the Democrats seem to have hold on to the Senate and may have gained a brand new seat. We'll see what happens in December. And right now, there may be a good chance that they could even keep the House. So right now, things have been pretty, like pretty bright. It pretty much tells us that the future is going to be awesome, and especially with what we got here right now, I actually got some news stories that we are definitely going to have a good time to get into. Maybe a bit of sad ones as well, but trust me, this will not be a dull episode. So, with all that said and done, I would like to go to the chat wall, and I want to ask you all, are you all ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? So let me hear it, folks. Are you all ready for this? Let's see now. Yes. Okay. Well, that pretty much confirms it. Yes, you are all ready. And now, with all that said and done, it is now time that we shall go and get things started. And with our first story, we might as well go into the biggest animation story from this week. And well, sadly, this is gonna be the one where we might as well begin with the unfortunate news that has happened. The sad one that honestly, it was very unexpected. Like, I will go into more details later, but this was something that, like, I was in the middle of working on something, and then suddenly I remember it was a friend of mine, Ryan. He actually shared with me the news, and I had to just stop in my tracks and just say, what? Like, holy crap. It was something that, like, my day was just starting, and already with that one, it just started with a very crushing blow. And by the way, thank you for the subscription right there. But yes, we might as well go and begin by discussing about the very unfortunate passing of Kevin Conroy. Yes, the news broke out on Friday that Kevin Conroy, who has been known the most as the definitive voice of Batman, starting in the 1990s with Batman the Animated Series and onward, unfortunately, he had passed away, in which it has been said to be a short battle with cancer at the young age of 66 years old. Hold on a sec. Okay. Just needed to adjust my chair there. But yes, Kevin Conroy has unfortunately passed away, and you may have recognized him in a few other projects. He did do some other voiceover works as well. He recently did a lot of He-Man projects, in which my source here from Variety even mentions it, that he did provide the voice of both Merman and Hordak for Netflix's Masters of the Universe and the recent He-Man and the Masters of the Universe series. And not to mention, he has also appeared in a whole bunch of live action work, including Chain of Desire, the soap opera Another World, and even a bunch of classic shows like Dallas, Murphy Brown, and Cheers. But of course, what he is most well known for is being the voice of Bruce Wayne, aka Batman. And he started out with Batman the Animated Series, and he continued his voice legacy onward, playing as Batman. In fact, there's even a whole section here on Variety that does explain at least some of the voiceover work that he has done voicing Batman. So let me just go and read it as it states. Conroy was so beloved for his Batman voice role that he continued with the character in various other DC projects, including the Batman Arkham and Injustice video game franchise. He also appeared in various DC Universe animated original movies, including Batman Gotham Knight in 2008, Superman and Batman Public Enemies in 2009, Justice League Doom in 2012, Batman The Killing Joke in 2016, Justice League vs. the Fatal Five in 2019, amongst other films. The 2019 Justice League animated film is Conroy's last credited feature as Batman, and his most recent video game credit as Batman in Warner Bros. Multiverses from earlier this year. And of course, with this sudden passing, the voiceover community is just mourning about his death, especially amongst the veteran Hollywood voice actors, most namely those who have actually worked on him, like some of the most prominent ones whom they actually spent days mourning on the passing of Kevin Conroy and making numerous posts about their time with him include Mark Hamill, whom he actually played the Joker alongside Kevin Conroy. And he actually has this little statement where he says here, Kevin was perfection. He was one of my favorite people on the planet, and I loved him like a brother. He truly cared for people around him. His decency shone through everything he did. Every time I saw him or spoke with him, my spirits were elevated. We also got a comment coming from Warner Brothers Animation, in which they also put out a statement about this, in which they said, Warner Brothers Animation is saddened by the loss of our dear friend Kevin Conroy. His iconic performance of Batman will forever stand among the greatest portrayal of the Dark Knight in any medium. We send our warmest thoughts to his loved ones and join fans around the world in honoring his legacy. And of course, there have been, and like you've probably seen on social media, countless of accounts that paid tribute to him. Tara Strong was definitely one who was mourning the most in regards to the passing of Kevin Conroy. There was also Ed Boon, who worked with Kevin Conroy on the Injustice games. There was James Gunn, who sent his regards. There was Troy Baker, who also lent out his words. There was Michael Rosenbaum. There was Paul Dini, and there was Jack Quaid. And those are just a few examples that Variety has brought out. So let me just explain a little bit about how I ended up hearing the news. Like I already said like a quick summary of it, but let me just go and give you like a summary about what happened, because these are moments that like are very rare, and like there are very few things that would make me go and stop at my tracks while I would be working. Because I remember it was Friday and I was working on my review of My Father's Dragon, and I was like pretty early on it, and I think I was like in the middle of watching the movie, which, by the way, the review will be coming out this Friday on YouTube, along with the Wednesday preview on Patreon. And I was just watching it, and then I got a message from my friend Ryan. And often he would go and really help me out with AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast by sending me links about like some of the recent news that happened in animation and in the entertainment industry, like a bunch of stuff like worth talking about in this podcast. So I remember he sent me a link in which it stated that Kevin Conroy had passed away, and I was just in shock. I had to pause the movie and I had to go and write to him, what? Because you would not expect to hear that, especially coming from someone like Kevin Conroy. And keep in mind, he passed away at the age of 66 years old. Like, we're talking about Walt Disney levels of passing away pretty young. I know some people might say that it's not necessarily young to die at 66, but still, though, it is kind of it is still like an age where you still have decades ahead of you. You still got a whole, you still got a whole bunch of time to go and live your life. So hearing that Kevin Conroy, suddenly it's like, okay, well, his life is over and he passed away due to cancer, and like apparently a very quick battle with cancer. It's just heartbreaking to hear. It's just one of those names you don't want to hear, in which it is said that they are no longer with us. And I can pretty much say that, of course, I've had some experience watching Batman works with Kevin Conroy. And I just have to say that, at least in my opinion, Kevin Conroy is easily one of, if not the best Batmans that we have ever had. Like, the way that he would portray both Bruce Wayne and Batman is just absolutely legendary. And I would even say it even surpasses many of the live action Batmans. Like, even better than like Michael Keaton, better than Christian Bale, better than Ben Affleck, better than Robert Pattinson. Well, or at the very least, if not better, that they would, like, he would be on par with them. Like, he really is that good. And I would easily go and say that Kevin Conroy is one of my favorite Batmans. And I know some people might say that, oh, well, it's just my bias because I'm the animation guy. And of course, I like the animation Batman. Well, yeah, but at the same time, the animation Batman is one of the best Batmans that we've gotten. Have you seen Batman, the animated series? It's phenomenal. And I would even go as far and say that one of my, like, probably one of, if not my favorite Batman project ever has to be Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Like, easily my, like, probably my favorite Batman movie ever, even compared to the live action works. And a big part of it is with Kevin Conroy's portrayal as Batman and Bruce Wayne. And I actually did think about it. I took some time to wonder, what is it about Kevin Conroy's Batman that stood out from all the other Batmans? Because, like, there is a general idea that everyone has about who Batman is, but what is it specifically that when Kevin Conroy does it, what is it about him that makes him stand out compared to many of the others? Rather it be like not just the ones who would voice him, such as Will Arnett or like I'm trying to think of others, but I kind of forgot. Or even like just recently with Keanu Reeves from DC Leagues of Super Pets, or even the live action ones. And I think really the one thing that stands out to me with Kevin Conroy as Bruce Wayne and Batman is the fact that, well, it's something that I've been repeating, is the fact that you can hear that he is Bruce Wayne and Batman. And even when he does dress up as Batman, you could still hear the Bruce Wayne inside of him. Now, one thing that I would say in terms of my criticism with many of the recent portrayals of Batman is how they really play up so much of like the gritty edgelordness when he would go and be Batman. Like, whenever you see him like don the cape, wear the mask and all that kind of stuff, they also have to include that weird gruff voice. Like, of course they would make fun of it in DC Leagues of Super Pets or even in the Lego Batman movie. But like even in some of the live action stuff, like Christian Bale especially, like for some reason they have to play that up. It's like, no, I'm not Bruce Wayne, I'm Batman. I'm edgy, I'm sad, I am the night, I am Batman. Like everyone plays that role again and again and again. And often it's like, it just becomes a bit tiring and it's pretty silly, Like there is a reason why nowadays people are just making fun of it. And I mean, I don't necessarily blame like the animated portrayals, like I mentioned with Keanu Reeves and Will Arnett, because, well, technically they're kind of satirizing Batman in a way using that edgy voice. But with Kevin Conroy, on the other hand, he does not do that. Like they're like, the funny thing is that there's barely much of a difference between his voice as Bruce Wayne and his voice as Batman. And I love that because you can actually hear the pain that he went through. Like, it kind of reminds you that like he is Bruce Wayne behind the mask, and you remember like the trauma that he went through as a kid, and even the horrible experiences that he still goes through as an adult. Like, you can actually hear the history of Bruce Wayne in a sense. It reminds you about who Batman is. It reminds you about everything that he went through, but still has that Batman quality of like authority, that he is serious about what he does. Like, he is that legendary superhero that we all know and love about him. Like, and that's what I think really does stand out. And I actually do have a great example of this. Like, I try to find like different examples about like, okay, maybe like there's something in the animated series or something like that, but I found one that is actually perfect. And it actually serves as a great comparison compared to some of the other Batmans, especially with the Christian Bale Batman. It's actually right over here. In fact, here, this would be a much better format. It's actually with this. This is from Talking Tunes, which is Rob Paulson's podcast. And there was an episode in which he actually brought in Kevin Conroy to go and talk about his career and even recite some lines where Kevin Conroy would be Batman in various scenes. And in this one that you're going to listen to, Rob Paulson and Kevin Conroy, they would go and recreate the ending of The Dark Knight. That's when Commissioner Gordon would have a chat with Batman just after Harvey Dent had passed away. And then Batman would just go and have that final talk, and then he would just go and run. And you probably, like, if you have seen The Dark Knight, then you do remember that scene well. Well, now we're going to go and have that comparison, and let's have a listen to this one right over here. Let's hear how Kevin Conroy would do it as his Batman.
The Joker won. All of Harvey's prosecutions, everything he fought for, undone. Whatever chance you gave us of fixing our cities dies with Harvey's reputation. We bet it all on him. The Joker took the best of us and tore him down. People will lose hope.
They won't. They must never know what he did.
5 dead. 2 of them cops. You can't sweep that up.
But the Joker cannot win. Gotham needs its true hero.
No!
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I can do those things because I'm not a hero. Not like Dent. I killed those people. That's what I can be.
No, you can't. You're not.
I'm whatever Gotham needs me to be. Call it in.
They'll hunt you.
You'll hunt me. You'll condemn me. Set the dogs on me. Because that's what needs to happen. Because sometimes the truth isn't good enough. Sometimes people deserve more. Sometimes people deserve to have their faith rewarded.
Isn't that the coolest thing? I know, right? Yep. Look at the...
And that was Rob Paulson and Kevin Conroy right there. Such a beautiful performance. Like, honestly, even just comparing how it was with The Dark Knight. And I mean, keep in mind, I love The Dark Knight. Is a great movie. I would even say it's my favorite of the live action Batman film so far. But honestly, this is a vast improvement. Like, compared to like the silly gruffiness that Christian Bale would go and put out. Like, you can hear the gravitas from Kevin Conroy's performance, and it's just absolutely beautiful right there. Like, such a great, a great performance. I like, definitely worth applauding. And it really is sad to hear that we'll no longer have that. But Kevin Conroy really did go and set a great example of how to be a great Batman. Like, you don't have to go and follow the format with what the live action films would go. You could go and follow the same steps as Kevin Conroy, where again, you can be Batman, but you can also hear the Bruce Wayne that is inside him. And also, one thing that is also worth mentioning also is how Kevin Conroy is as a person. And that is what many voice actors are going to actually miss the most. It's not just about the Batman, but it's also about Kevin Conroy as a person. And I don't think I've heard a single story about anything that's bad about Kevin Conroy. Many people have said that he is one of the sweetest and one of the kindest human beings that you could ever imagine. And like, honestly, you don't have to take my word for it. You can go and look up all the voice actors who are mourning on the passing of Kevin Conroy, especially people like Mark Hamill and Tara Strong, where they have provided their own stories talking about how Kevin Conroy really was like a great highlight in their lives, like such a sweet, kind-hearted person, like really going out of their way to go and help them. Just, you know, just a great guy all around. Like, those who have met him have really been blessed by his presence, and that is what people are going to miss about him. And not to mention also, another significant factor about Kevin Conroy is the fact that he is gay. And this was actually like a known fact that we have a rare instance where a gay man actually did play as Batman. And very recently, actually, we did actually have a comic book or just a comic that is kind of like an autobiographical story about Kevin Conroy and how he ultimately became Batman. And it was this was just released in the summer, and it's actually called Finding Batman, in which Kevin Conroy himself actually wrote. And it actually tells the story about Kevin Conroy's pursuit into acting and the struggles that he went through because he was gay. And keep in mind, this was like this is set back in like the 1970s and 1980s, or around that area. It was unfortunately a time when homophobia was very much commonplace. So of course they would go and frequently use the F word on the guy, and just going through the trauma and the stigma of being a gay man trying to, you know, make it into Hollywood and stuff. And then it would ultimately lead into the end where he would go and get the call and actually become Batman. Like, how his personal story helped him connect with Bruce Wayne so that he could be the Batman that we all know and love. And by the way, I do have this Tumblr post that did post it for free, but also I just want to go and mention that you can actually go and find it for free online. Like, even DC themselves have put it out for so that everyone can go and read it with no charge whatsoever. So I highly recommend that you go and check out this comic. Truly inspirational if you really want to know about the story of Kevin Conroy. But yeah, overall, this is a very massive loss. And I would say this is one of the most unfortunate losses that we had this year, alongside Gilbert Gottfried. You know, the man was such a legend as Batman. I'm definitely going to miss his performance as Batman. So I really do hope that his legacy may live on, and that we continue the support of Batman, and not to mention also to support the fight against cancer and the fight for gay rights as well, so that what Kevin Conroy went through is something that no other person should go through, in which their identity or just being themselves becomes a stigma of prejudice. So honestly, may Kevin Conroy rest in peace. Hopefully we will continue the battle of cancer and fighting for gay rights, and that his Batman may live on. All right, so with that said and done now, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you feel about the passing of Kevin Conroy? Do you have a personal story related to Kevin Conroy, rather it be maybe meeting him at a convention, or maybe like any of his projects? What's your personal favorite Kevin Conroy performance? Let me know what you think on that. Okay, let's see what we have here. I feel sad that the most incredible voice of Batman has passed away. I never watched the animated series, but I remember playing the Arkham City game with my brother, and I will forever hold on to those memories as I love how scary and beautiful the game was. Even though there might be a decent enough there might be a decent enough voice actor to take the mantle of Batman, he will always be the voice of the Dark Knight, like the voice. P.S. I love how the CW gave him a chance to play Bruce Wayne in the TV series Crisis of Infinite Earths. Thank you for bringing that up, because that was actually the one time that we actually see Kevin Conroy be a live action Batman. And that was a very significant moment that a lot of fans were like freaking out about. That was actually really awesome. I haven't seen the series, but the fact that Kevin Conroy did get a chance to play Batman in a live action environment, like whether it be a movie or a TV show, or in this case, a series, like still pretty cool nonetheless. And yeah, like you do bring up a very good point that it is true that like there are going to be plenty of other Batmans that will have a new voice, or plenty of other actors that will play as Batman. And I mean, they're going to do a good job, but it's going to be extremely difficult to get into that same level as Kevin Conroy. Let's see, what else do we have? Although I didn't watch Batman the Animated Series, I did watch Batman Mask of the Phantasm, great underrated movie indeed, and the Scooby-Doo crossover that he appears in. It's very sad to hear he's no longer with us. Kevin Conroy does an excellent performance as the Cape Crusader, and I consider him to be the best actor for Batman. Thank you so much, Kevin Conroy, for your amazing talent you bring, and we may miss you dearly, but may your legacy continue to live on. All right. No matter how hard all the other actors for him tried, be it Ben Affleck or Will Arnett or even Robert Pattinson, none of them captured the pure essence of Batman than Conroy. Well, Pattinson maybe, but that's not the... His Batman voice was phenomenal. It was unlike any Batman voice I'd ever heard before, so may he rest in peace. Also, it's a bit ironic that as soon as my friend told me the news, I was watching Wakanda Forever. Wait, if you really boil it down, that's a little too ironic. Yeah, yeah, like you're watching something that's like honoring a passing of a Marvel hero, and now you're hearing the news about the passing of a DC hero. I mean, you know, it's a bit much, and I mean, oh my god, I can imagine the waterworks that you're going through. I haven't watched Wakanda Forever yet. I am planning to though, so hopefully soon. But oh boy, like I can imagine like. You're going through a lot during that time. Let's see. Out of everyone that has portrayed Batman, Kevin Conroy truly was one of the best. His version of Batman has always stood out for me, not just because of his distinct voice, but also how often he has shown a lot of Batman's more gentle side, showing that there's still a kind human being behind that mask. As for my favorite work that he's in, it's easily Batman the Animated Series, with my favorite episode being Babyface. May you rest in peace, Kevin Conroy. Thank you for everything. Exactly. And this is what I'm talking about, people. This is what I mean by the fact that you can hear the Bruce Wayne inside of him, that it's not that Batman isn't just some manly, edgy superhero, that there is a person who went through a lot behind that mask. So that's one thing I loved about Kevin Conroy's performance, and that's what makes him one of the best Batman. All right, I think I'm going to read one more comment before we go and move on to our next story. I remember Kevin Conroy voicing Batman in the Batman Arkham games like Asylum, City, and Night, even in the animated series as well. Hearing this really breaks my heart. This man is a true legend aside from Mark Hamill as the Joker. And don't forget there are other animated Batmans that were voiced by different people. Will Arnett, Adam West, and Keanu Reeves. But this is Kevin Conroy we're talking about. May he rest in peace. May his legend live on. Exactly. And you all said it best, folks. So may the man rest in peace. And may we forever remember of who is the best Batman. So with that said, now, hopefully with our next story, we're going to go and brighten the mood a little bit, as we'll be right back with our next story that we shall talk about. And we are back. Hey, welcome back, everyone. Now, I know that it was a little bit tearful what we went through, but hey, You know what would go and brighten things up? The holidays! Yes, the holidays are going to be coming very soon. And, well, I know some people probably have already done so already, but we got to go and think about bringing out the holiday decorations and go and celebrate whatever holidays that we would go and cheer for, whether it be Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, or whatever. And in order to go and brighten things up after our somber story about the passing of Kevin Conroy, I actually do have this trailer for an upcoming Netflix movie that has just been announced, and surprisingly, something that has some familiar names attached to it, including Olivia Colman and Luke Evans. So, with that said, let us now go and check out the trailer for the upcoming Netflix animated feature, Scrooge, A Christmas Carol. Scrooge, A Christmas Carol, to which the movie is going to be coming out, well, very soon on December 2nd. And I just gotta say that, honestly, out of all the Christmas Carol adaptations that I've seen, and even though this is just a trailer, I gotta say this is one of the most forgettable. Like, this, honestly, this almost feels like it was manufactured to be the most generic and bland Christmas carols that you could go and ever think of. Like, it really does feel like the whole theme about this version of A Christmas Carol is that it is a generic animated feature, complete with all the different tropes that would go and come with it. Even giving unnecessary side characters. Like, one thing that felt like pretty weird about this version is the fact that they gotta go and give this a dog. Like, now we have to have a dog buddy, like, I guess to make the movie more cute or something. Like, since when did Scrooge ever own a dog? And I mean, like, the point of his character is that he's supposed to be like this miserable old man, and yet, like, you look at Scrooge, you could definitely tell that he's not someone who would be likely to go and own a pet. You know, like, that seems a little bit off. And not to mention, like, even the extra elements that they would add, like, oh, the musical numbers. Like, apparently this is going to be some kind of musical. And I gotta say, like, the big showstopper for this one, it sounds as generic as you can get. Like, honestly, it's almost hilarious how like generic this song is. Like, let's just have a listen again.
Celebration.
I love Christmas. I love Christmas.
I love Christmas. I love Christmas. Yeah, Christmas. I love Christmas. It's like, really? This is what you're gonna go with for a Christmas musical? You gotta go with I love Christmas. I don't know, man. That doesn't sound like it works, dude. It just does not. You know, and not to mention, it's like, I don't know, like, I feel like with this one, like, like, from the sounds of it, maybe it wants to be this, like, animated, like, Broadway feel musical, you know, like the animated films back in the 1990s when, like, trying to be a musical is all the trend. I feel like that's kind of the mentality that it's trying to go with, but that is if it really is committed to doing so, and it's not just that one musical number. But it looks like that seems to be what it wants to establish. It wants to be an animated musical, but so far that one song is not giving me a good first impression. And not to mention also another thing that is not really grabbing my attention. The one thing that I wasn't that big of a fan, well, it was just before that song, actually. It's the humor.
To the triumphant musical climax of this celebration.
No, wait, no, it's not right here, actually. Okay, I was wrong. No, it's okay, it's just afterwards. Sorry, it's this one.
Whether to stuff the goose with the stuffing. There's only one problem. Not sure whether to stuff the goose with the stuffing or stuff the stuffing with the goose.
Like, a lot of the humor here just does not work. It's not really a funny film. And even the things that they would go and suggest, it just, it just doesn't land. I don't know. I feel like they're really like lowballing the humor. Like they want to try to find stuff that like maybe kids would find funny, but there's nothing that like seems like it's like, and the funny thing is that, when it comes to A Christmas Carol, it doesn't have to be a comedy. It doesn't necessarily have to be this funny story and stuff like that. Yes, you can implement some humor, and there are some adaptations that did so very well. Rather it be Bill Murray's Scrooge with Bill Murray, or especially Muppets Christmas Carol that did so masterfully. But in here, it just feels like it's unnecessary. And again, they're just doing so because this is just what generic animated films do. And like, it just has this like really it just has this melancholy motivation where it just wants to do the things because that's just what animated films do. Like that's really that feels like it's the explanation as to why they would go and do these things, rather it be to include the dog, to include the musicals, to include the jokes, is because, well, that's what animated films do, we want to make an animated film for kids, so we just gotta go and do that. But there is one thing that I will say is actually good about this movie. Like, I know that I've been pretty much bashing it a whole lot, but one thing I do like is actually the animation, specifically with how they portray the spirits. The spirits, I gotta admit, they actually look cool. Like, you got Jacob Marley over here. He really does have this threatening and ominous presence. That actually looks awesome. And then, of course, like, you got the three other spirits. You got the ghost of what is yet to come, like with this threatening death. Actually, you don't really see that much here. Like, you got this ominous presence that actually does look pretty cool. Like, you got the Santa Claus like image with Ghost of Christmas Present, and then like you they stick to the theme of the candle person with the Ghost of Christmas Past, which I'm not gonna lie, the Ghost of Christmas Past girl, she's actually kind of cute though. I will give this movie credit. Like, she's actually, like, honestly, if I had to be visited by a Ghost of Christmas spirit, I would be down to be visited by her. I'm just saying. But yeah, honestly, like, I will say, even the animation in general, it doesn't look bad. It actually does look pretty decent for what it is. Like, it's not a horrible looking animated feature. It is well crafted. Like, you could tell that there actually is a competent animation studio that's running it, and that, they have some solid experience to go and create projects like this, where yes, they would be capable in animating a full-on animated feature that would be published onto like a major platform like Netflix or something like that. So I will give that credit. However, I won't say that this is some of the best animation that I've seen. And the funny thing is that when you do look at the visuals, like when you do look at this animation that they provide, like, yeah, it is stylized, but I honestly cannot help but look at this, and I feel like this is the same kind of animation that you would see on social media. Specifically, this is the kind of high quality animation where it feels like it wants to sell you something. Like, honestly, I look at this and I feel like this is like some kind of promotion to go and sell me like a Christmas Carol style social media game. Or it's like one of those like really weird social media games, like the kind that Saberspark would go and talk about, where you would go and have these weird stories about this girl who got dumped by this guy and she has to go and like live a brand new life or something like that. It's honestly that style of animation that this is reminding me of. Like, yeah, it's, it's good animation for what it is, but with the style that they present, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the studio has actually done experience with doing that kind of animation. That's what I honestly feels like a little bit. And yeah, and there are some people who are bringing it up. Yeah, like honestly, this looks like Fortnite. It looks like one of those games like Overwatch or Fortnite or something. Like, this is the brand new expansion pass. Like, the holidays are going to be coming up, and if you want to go into Fortnite right now, you can play as Ebenezer Scrooge. I mean, with all the random characters that's in Fortnite, would you be surprised if you would suddenly go and play as freaking Scrooge? But yeah, honestly, overall, I just gotta say that this movie just doesn't interest me whatsoever. Maybe it's not going to be the worst animated feature unless there's some major surprises that are in store, but with the way that this this trailer is presenting it, I can't help but feel like this is just a bland Christmas Carol adaptation. There really is nothing about it that feels like it stands out amongst all the other Christmas Carol adaptations. Like, why should I watch this one instead of watching something like Mickey's Christmas Carol, or like the Flintstones Christmas Carol, or Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol, or like literally any other Christmas carols out there? Like, why watch this when I got like so many other options? Especially like, I could just drop this easily and I could just go and watch Muppets Christmas Carol. So honestly, it's just, everything about it just feels like it's an absolutely generic animated feature filled with all the generic animated feature tropes in there. And it has very little that it could go and offer me that would be alluring, with maybe the exception of the Ghost of Christmas Past, but that's kind of another subject. But yeah, honestly, this one just doesn't seem that promising for me. However, if you would be interested in checking out Scrooge: A Christmas Carol, then again, keep in mind that this movie shall be coming out later in a few weeks on December 2nd. All right, so with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, what do you think of Scrooge: A Christmas Carol? Do you guys disagree with me and you think that this is going to be an awesome adaptation that you're looking forward to? Do you think that this version looks like it's not worth it? Let me know what you think. All right, let's see what we got here now. Okay, they're flooding in. All right, so let's see. After all the Christmas Carol adaptations, this is honestly repetitive and forgettable. I mean, the animation doesn't look too bad, but the songs and everything in the movie are just bland. Seriously, Netflix will be like, we're releasing our own adapted film of A Christmas Carol, so bah humbug to you. Sorry, Netflix, I prefer Mickey's Christmas Carol, so bah humbug to you too. As for the movie, I'm not really interested in watching this, so screw this movie, I'm going home. All right. Let's see. If I had a nickel for every 2022 released musical retelling A Christmas Carol, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. But yeah, this film looks meh. Olivia Colman is always a hoot, but the humor sucks and the songs are pretty bland. And this is compared to the movie that has Pasek and Paul doing the music. Either way, I'm just going to stick with Jingle Jangle. I mean, does this film have the tremendous singing pipes of Keegan-Michael Key? Didn't think so. Yeah, exactly. And you know, JF, you do bring up a good point, because we did recently get a brand new Christmas Carol adaptation, which is Spirited. I know there's not necessarily a whole lot of good things that are being said about it, but at the very least, that one does know how to actually stand out, with the fact that it is a Pasek and Paul musical, and that it stars Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds. Like, you got the dynamic of those two great comedic actors. So, like, at least that has something that would be a legitimate selling point. This animated version does not. The most that I could ever think of is that this version is just the generic animated feature. Like, it's like manufactured to be like the most generic animated feature that you could think of, but now it's telling the story of A Christmas Carol. So that's honestly my problem about it, is that there's just nothing that's really making me hooked with this new version. Let's see. From the look of this trailer, it looks very forgettable. I saw a few bad Christmas Carol adaptations before, like the FX miniseries that tries too hard to be dark with the adult themes, but this looks bland overall. I would honestly rather see Muppets Christmas Carol, Scrooge, or Mickey's version, or even that Jim Carrey mocap film that than this. So overall, this does not look good. All right. Let's see what else we got. This just looks like a standard Christmas Carol adaptation made for the sake of it. Nothing stands out, and this is like oh, hold on. This, like, they just got a checklist of what is in other versions and called it a day. So why does everyone look like Overwatch characters? You know, I'll just stick with the George C. Scott version. Oh, and also, not to mention that there is something that bothers me about this version is the fact that even with the humor, it feels like they're kind of like ripping off of others. I don't know if I've already said this, but like right at the end, what was supposed to be the final gag with the Ghost of Christmas Past, that has already been done, you know? Like this right over here.
This can be real.
Here. Did that feel real?
Like, didn't they already do that in Scrooge? Like, like that ghost fairy that just keeps on slapping Bill Murray? Like, we've already gotten that. Like, that joke has already been done in another Christmas Carol adaptation. And if all you're going to do is make me think of other Christmas Carol adaptations, then you're not really doing a good job. Let's see. Well, that was a movie, I guess. Sure, the designs for the ghosts are pretty good. My favorite being the Ghost of Christmas Present. And on a technical level, it does look nice. However, everything else just doesn't interest me in any way. And all of the stuff they did are, most of the stuff they did add are most certainly just there to be more kid-friendly. Sorry, Netflix, but I'll stick to Mickey's Christmas Carol. All right, I'll go and read one more comment before we move on to our stories. So, would have it. Okay, I'll go over here. In a world with so many A Christmas Carol adaptations, you need to make yours stand out and offer something new to make your own adaptation unique. This doesn't look like it will do that. It just looks like your typical generic cookie cutter A Christmas Carol adaptation, with the only difference being that it's on Netflix. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'll be sticking with Scrooge McDuck, Kermit the Frog, and Molly McGee for my, Molly McGee for my A Christmas Carol fix. Exactly. So I think we're all in agreement here where the animation does look pretty decent, but other than that, maybe it won't be terrible, but it's just not going to be memorable in any way. But keep in mind, though, if you are still interested in checking out this version of A Christmas Carol, then all you have to do is just wait until December 2nd until it is released on Netflix. And with that, we're going to go into a quick break, and I will go and come back with something that I think it's safe to say it will be much better. And we are back. Okay, so I will admit that maybe that last trailer, it didn't really work out to go and lift up our spirits, you know? Like, yeah, we're still sad about the passing of Kevin Conroy. That, and also we just witnessed a trailer that supposed to lift up our spirits with Christmas, but it just didn't work out. But maybe this trailer will be much better. And I do mean much, much, much better. Especially right now when it's already been getting some massive praise. So, you know what? Without further ado, let's go ahead and check out the trailer for what could possibly be the most anticipated animated film so far, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Guillermo del Toro's long-awaited adaptation of Pinocchio, in which that is going to be coming out on December 9th on Netflix. Not to mention that there are going to be a few movie theaters that will be showing or have been showing Pinocchio so far. And with that said, there have been a lot of news reports, and already some people have put out their reviews and put out their thoughts in regards to this adaptation, considering that it's already been making its rounds in festivals throughout the fall. And so far, many people have been saying that this is the best animated feature of this year. Like, apparently this has really blown the minds of people who have watched this movie, who were lucky enough to be able to go and actually see it for themselves before it managed to get released on Netflix. And I can already tell just from watching this trailer, yeah, I could see what they mean. Because one thing I could state is the visuals. The stop motion animation that they've done here is just absolutely beautiful. I mean, we just recently went through Wendell and Wild, and that's another fantastic stop motion animated feature. And the animation that we have seen here is about on par with what we have gotten last time. Now, the funny thing to note is that technically Guillermo del Toro is not the only director here, because he is also collaborating with Mark Gustafson, a longtime stop motion animation veteran, and has also done a lot of work for Fantastic Mr. Fox. And funny enough, you look at the animation and you could tell a bit of that Fantastic Mr. Fox influence is already there, even in terms of the character designs, like especially on the people. Like, I know technically the character designs are supposed to be based off of the illustrations of Chris Grimley, but when you do look at like when you do look at the character designs and like you do look at the people, like there's like a little bit of like realism that's within them, but there's also something that's like slightly artistic at the same time. Like, yeah, it's definitely like it has a style that's a lot more down to earth than compared to something like Wendell and Wild, but it still has like that artistry feel to it. And funny enough, considering this is an adaptation of Pinocchio, this is one of those cases where like this is stop motion where it does look like living dolls, it does look like living toys, and not to mention like the other elements that do look beautiful in the animation, especially with the backgrounds. That's one thing that really has blown me away. Like, not just the animation themselves, but like everything that's around them, rather it be like the forest over here, or even like the circus. I can imagine like the circus right over here is gonna be like a true showstopper, no pun intended, but it's gonna be like a true sight to behold. And then also like you got the big sea monster as well, that is also going to be like a massive highlight. Like, that's going to be really exciting to see. And of course, not to mention the character who's supposed to be the blue fairy, or I guess you could say the wood sprite, if we are going to be more accurate to the original Carlo Collodi story. Like, that is also like truly amazing, just like in an animation stance alone. In fact, the funny thing is though, is that like you look at this version of the blue fairy, and I think like she's the one that really does indicate to you that this is a Guillermo del Toro adaptation. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if she isn't even a stop motion. This is just a random pet that Guillermo del Toro has. Like this is his pet that he has lurking around at home. Like, this is my cat. No, this is not a stop motion puppet that is modeled after my cat. This is actually my cat. But I will say though, if there is one thing that I truly do love from what I'm seeing so far in this trailer, outside of the beautiful animation, it's how it presents us this different version of Pinocchio. How, like, unlike last time, like with Scrooge: A Christmas Carol, there's literally nothing about it that tells us how is this adaptation going to stand out from the rest. This, however, knows exactly how. Like the moment when you do see this blue fairy suddenly emerging, like that pretty much tells you that, oh, this is going to be much different than the other Pinocchios that we've recently had. Even more different than the Disney remake or even the Pauly Shore version. And the one thing that's so interesting is that this is going to have a theme about immortality. And in a way, I guess you could say, will go into like this soul, you know, kind of, it'll go into like soul, and it will go and discuss about the meaning of life, because they would go and establish that Pinocchio is an immortal being as a wooden boy. And that could probably change. You know, that's going to affect him a lot when he does see people like Geppetto and everyone else that he loves that will no longer be with him. And that, I think, will add a very interesting twist, because when you do think about it, there's not a whole lot, or I don't know if there is any other Pinocchio adaptation that does discuss about the mortality of Pinocchio. And yeah, like, now that he's a wooden boy, like, he's not going to age like any of the other characters or any of the other people. So does that mean he is immortal? And this movie will really go dive deep into it, or at least it seems like it will go down into that aspect while telling its own adaptation of Pinocchio. And honestly, with all that, it really does make me excited. Now, also, I just want to go and note that I know that there have been other Pinocchio adaptations who try to do things that are different as well, much like with Guillermo del Toro's version, especially with the recent Pauly Shore version that we have gotten. I think it is safe to say that that version is much more different than any of the other Pinocchios that we have gotten, especially with the John Heder horse. But, you know, just because it's different, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's good. But in the case over here, with Guillermo del Toro's version, I trust the filmmaker. Like, a lot of the stuff that he has done are just legendary. Rather it be Pan's Labyrinth, the Hellboy movies, or even recently with Shape of Water, he can really tell a beautiful story. And I definitely do trust him that he will go and make something special. And especially, again, from what I've been hearing about, like with the early, like, first reactions, like people praising the heck out of this movie, I think it really says a lot that we're going to be in for something truly special. And honestly, with me, I just got to say that one thing I want to do so badly is capture this on the big screen. Like, I'm not going to wait on December 9th until this comes out on Netflix or whatever. Like, I know that like recently this week, Guillermo del Toro did actually announce that there will be some screenings in Canada. And funny enough, the only place in Quebec that it will show is actually in Montreal. So honestly, I am so hyped up and I'm gonna go for it. I don't know when it's going to be, but a lot, like, apparently some websites say that it's going to be this Friday. Whatever it is, I'll be ready for it. And for those of you asking, by the way, when that review would come out, if I do catch it early, I will be planning to go and release it on December 9th. I will go and, like, stick to that release. If I am lucky to go and catch an early preview of it or see it on the big screen, then it will be for sure that the review will be released at the same time as its Netflix release on December 9th. But overall, though, with this Pinocchio trailer, I absolutely adore it. Honestly, this trailer looks phenomenal. The animation is beautiful. It gives us plenty of new ideas to make this Pinocchio adaptation stand out. And really, there's a lot of heart into this as well. Like, you could tell, like, the characters like Geppetto and Pinocchio and the new Cricket, not Jiminy, but Sebastian J. Cricket, I think that's his name as well. Like, even the monkey character, I think, like, there's going to be a lot of very tender moments in this feature. So honestly, I cannot wait for it. And if you cannot wait for it, then keep in mind that the movie will be coming out on December 9th. And with that said, I'd like to go into the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, how do you feel about this trailer of Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio? Are you all excited for the movie's release? Do you have any concerns? Do you have any questions? Or do you not really agree and you doubt this movie? Let me know what you all think. Okay, let's see what we got here. So first we got the Pauly Shore disaster piece, then we got Disney's live action remake, and now we're getting what is easily the best Pinocchio adaptation of 2022. The animation is absolutely beautiful, and I love how it tries to stand out from the other Pinocchio adaptations and try something different. So overall, I'm very excited. Also, I'm inevitably waiting for the internet to take this movie and use the power of editing to make Pinocchio say the Pauly Shore lines from Pinocchio: A True Story. Yeah, they are, aren't they? Oh my god. Speaking of stop motion, I suddenly feel like Jack Skellington right now. Just looking back at my old my old tweet, and I'm just thinking, what have I done? What have I done? Oh boy. All right. Moving right along. Now we are getting to the good stuff. And this is most certainly the good stuff. The animation is just spectacular. The actors got some good performances, and most notably, the story looks like it will have really notable changes to it. Like how Geppetto takes Pinocchio away from the circus and Pinocchio leaving by his own will. Out of all the Pinocchio's works we have gotten this year, this is most certainly the best of them all, and I am very excited to see when this comes out. All right. Oh boy, this is definitely going to be great. I am a fan of Del Toro's works, and The Shape of Water is not only my favorite, but also a masterpiece. And I was disappointed by his last film, Nightmare Alley, and I have all of his 3 films on Blu-ray on the Criterion Collection. The words that people are saying is not just the best animated, but one of the best movies of the year, and a lot of award predictions for the Oscars, especially for a potential Best Picture nomination, since it is Guillermo del Toro behind the scenes. Yeah, and that is true also. The funny thing is that, and, funny enough, like, I was ready to go and discuss about this a little later, but it is true that Netflix is actually preparing to go and actually really go big on award season with this adaptation of Pinocchio, so much so that they're even going to go and try to push for a Best Picture nomination. And if that does happen, that's going to be a massive deal. That could honestly be a bit of a game changer right there. Let's see now. Guillermo del Toro, here's the key to my house. Please go F my non-existent girlfriend. Even as the one person that found the Disney remake of Pinocchio okay, this blows that film way out of water with stunning visuals, a deeply emotional story, and tremendous creativity at play. So this is absolutely gonna be a must watch. I'm gonna avoid a true story jokes to quickly say, you know what the Blue Fairy reminds me of? A creature from Pan's Labyrinth. Exactly! That, as I was saying, this is Guillermo del Toro's house cat. That's what it is. This ain't something that you will find even in the Grish Grimley illustrations. Like, this is full on a creation of Guillermo del Toro, especially with the fact that these aren't eyes that's on her face. Those are just lights. The real eyes are on the horns and are on the wings, which is very typical of Guillermo del Toro. All right, let's see what else we got. On my wooden-legged cricket. This looks amazing. The stop-motion animation looks perfect, and visuals look awesome. And if this movie is gonna have a bit of dark tone and have Pinocchio be a douchebag at the beginning, just like the original story, I would be on par with it. Heck, this would actually be better than Disney's version. I give praise for Guillermo del Toro for this version of Pinocchio, so I would totally give this a watch. Also, Patrick McHale did the screenplay for this movie. And yes, that is also another thing that is worth noting, is the fact that Patrick McHale, the creator of Over the Garden Wall, is also a co-writer of this movie. All right, I think I'm gonna go and I think I might cap this off with one more comment before we move on to the next story, unless there might be another one, just to be sure. There's one person that I know who often watches this podcast, and he has seen it, but I don't know if he's here. Anyways, here, I'll go and read it. This looked absolutely amazing in this trailer, and it makes me more excited to see this come out next month. Although I wish this movie was playing in theaters in my location. If it is the best animated film when I see it, I will include this as one of my favorite movies of 2022. I know that award season is maybe, or yet it has yet to start, but do you think this film will be a winner for the Oscars for Best Animated Feature, or do you think other Disney films like Turning Red might come out on top? I don't know, honestly. I guess it's going to be a factor that we will have to wait and see when this movie does come out. But I will say it's going to be a pretty big contender. But anyways, I don't want to talk about award season right now. I'm going to save it for next time after we come back from this little ad break. All right, now, speaking of the Academy, the Oscars, and award season, that's actually the subject of our next story. Very coincidentally enough, I didn't even think about that connection, but I guess I accidentally did do that smooth transition right there. But yes, considering that award season is going to be upon us very, very soon, we will be hearing about nominations that are going to be revealed, about potential nominations for the Oscars and stuff like that. But what I'm going to be talking about here is not necessarily any of the Disney movies or even Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. But it looks like animation has some additional competition right now. And we actually have a bit of confirmation about certain movies that now, after a little bit of controversy in which I did talk about last time or in a previous episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, they are now a part of the competition. They are now eligible to be nominated for Best Animated Feature. And what I'm talking about is 3 specific animated features. And they are Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, Eternal Springs, and Apollo 10.5, A Space Age Childhood. Now, you may recall before, I did talk about a controversy in which Richard Linklater put out an open letter to the Academy in which he was massively upset of the fact that his movie, Apollo 10.5, A Space Age Childhood, could not be nominated for Best Animated Feature because of the animation that it tries to do, which in Richard Linklater's case is using rotoscoping. And the Academy thought that maybe it would not necessarily count in that category. And that's where the Academy did receive a bit of backlash because it wouldn't go and nominate that feature film, and it would go and bring up the big discussion in regards to what is an animated feature and what can count as an animated feature, especially if the Academy is going to go and try to gatekeep that. But it looks like now they have changed their minds, and we got 3 experimental animated features, 3 of which that did heavily use live action for their process, but they would still count as animated features, and they ended up getting, and now they can go and actually compete to get a nomination. And as I said before, we got Richard Linklater's Apollo 10.5, A Space Age Childhood, we got the Canadian animated documentary Eternal Springs, and Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, the film adaptation from A24. And by the way, just a little bit of a quick reminder, for those of you who don't know, originally there was this major rule, or technically there still is a rule in terms of animated films that can be eligible. And I'll read from my source here on The Hollywood Reporter, as it states, in the Oscars eligibility rules, the Academy defines an animated film as a motion picture in which movement and characters' performances are created using a frame-by-frame technique and usually falls into one of the 2 general fields of animation, narrative or abstract. The rules further state that motion capture and real-time puppetry are not by themselves animation techniques, and animation must figure in no less than 75% of the picture's running time. In addition, a narrative animated film must have a significant number of major characters animated. So that's pretty much the big thing that is going on. And to be honest, even though I will say among this list, the only one that I have actually seen is Apollo 10 and a half, and I've already expressed my opinion on it in length before. And like, and I already got a review out there. So if you really want to know my thoughts, you could go and check that out. But overall, I will say that regardless of how I feel about the movies themselves, honestly, I'm glad that they finally did get a nomination, or at least that they could, well, not a nomination, that they could be in consideration, that they could actually go and compete with all those other animated features. Because like I talked about before, the Academy shouldn't go and actually gatekeep the idea of what is an animated feature, because with those ones, they really did push the experimental side of what can be an animated feature. Like we are honestly, with Eternal Springs, that should be a no-brainer, because we've already gotten some animated documentaries before, and they have been recognized by the Oscars in the past, rather it be with Waltz with Bashir, or even last year with Flea, which made history, being nominated for Best Animated Feature, Best Documentary, and Best International Film, all at the same time. So yeah, that should be a no-brainer that one should go and get nominated. And even at that, like, I would even say Waltz with Bashir technically would have a similar style, that it would have that kind of rotoscoping that Eternal Springs had done before, or has done in this case. Like it even has a little bit of that description over here. Where would it be? Yeah, like it states, animated documentary Eternal Springs will also represent Canada in this year's Oscars race for Best International Feature. Directed by Jason Loftus, the film uses animation and present-day live-action footage to retrace a 2002 incident when members of the outlawed spiritual group Falun Gong hijacked a state TV station in China in an attempt to counter government propaganda about their practice. So yeah, like there is that. Like we've already seen, stuff like that happen with, again, Waltz with Bashir and with Flea. So really, there's no excuse for that to not be in the competition. And then there's Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, in which like that one is more interesting, because it is technically a stop motion animated film, but everything around it is live action. It's like technically it's one of those stop motion films that it's not like Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, where they would go and build this massive set. It's kind of like one of those, the whole world is a stage, and they would go and use the live action environment around Marcel and all the other shells. And sometimes we do actually see live actors as they would be performing their roles, but still, though, it is an animated feature as is, because Marcel and the other shells are indeed animated. And then of course there is Apollo 10 and a half, and I've already done this discussion before, especially in regards to rotoscoping animation and how technically that should be considered that should technically be considered animation, because it's already been done many times before, and we call those animated films, especially with Ralph Bakshi's works, such as Lord of the Rings or American Pop. So honestly, yeah, why not include Richard Linklater's Apollo 10 and a half onto that list? Because everything that's shown on screen is animated, despite the fact that everything was filmed in live action before. So why not actually go and and include that one to the list? So overall, I'm definitely happy that they can be considered animated films, and that they can have a chance to actually get nominated. But there is a major catch, though, and there is one question that does remain. So, okay, now that we have seen that they can be eligible, does that mean that they will get nominated? And that's where things really go iffy, because I can tell you right now that this year is going to get very competitive, because you got to think about all the other animated features that also have a shot to go and be nominated for awards season, not just for the Oscars, but also for like the Golden Globes, the Annies, the Critics' Choice Awards, and all that kind of stuff. And I can tell you right now that all these other feature films, they're going to have a really hard time. And honestly, my most positive answer that I can go and put out is I doubt it. Honestly, that's honestly the best that I could say, is that I doubt that we will see those get nominated, but I wouldn't say no. Because, like, you really got to think about it. Like, you got Disney, for example, who came out with 3 animated features, and regardless of what you may say about them, like with Turning Red, Lightyear, or the upcoming Strange World, they all have a very solid chance to go and get nominated on the basis that they are from Disney and Pixar. I mean, we saw how last year that Disney's movies all got nominated with Encanto, Luca, and Raya and the Last Dragon. So it wouldn't necessarily be surprising if we do see the same thing happen, where 3 of the 5 nominations will be from Disney. There is that chance. And then there's also Netflix, because it looks like every year we're going to see a Netflix movie be nominated. I mean, we're already seeing the pattern with Klaus, and then Over the Moon. Oh, excuse me. With Over the Moon, and then last year with the Mitchells versus the Machines from Sony Animation. So this year, however, like, it's going to be for sure that the most focus that Netflix is going to give in terms of its animation awards competitor is going to be Pinocchio. And even right now, as we've talked about before, we have seen how Netflix is already pushing for that major campaign. So Pinocchio, of course, is going to take a major priority, or at the very least, it's already taking a major priority compared to Apollo 10.5. And this is not even to mention all the other Netflix movies that they can also get a chance, and they also have some major names and major studios attached to them. Let's not forget that if there is going to be a second nomination for Netflix, there's going to be several movies that will go and fight for it. There's gonna be Apollo 10.5. There's Wendell and Wild. There's My Father's Dragon. There's also the Sea Beast. Like, all those movies are gonna go and fight for that one spot. And not to mention some of the other animated features that have been released recently, or at least this year, like even DreamWorks. Like, DreamWorks has now come back and, like, they put on their A game. Like, there's already been a great amount of praise for The Bad Guys, and they could have a massive shot at the Oscars and on award season as well. And not to mention, there is also the upcoming Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. So honestly, it's really going to be a tough competition, and who knows what's actually going to go and be nominated. I would say, however, that among the 3 movies that are listed here that could have a chance to be nominated, the one that would most likely get a nomination, I would say maybe it would be Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. And the reason why I would say that is because Marcel the Shell with Shoes On is the kind of animated film that would most likely go and fill that spot as the mandatory independent animated feature that would go and make its rounds to be nominated. I mean, it's from A24. It is an independent production. So honestly, I could see that being most likely to go and grab that nomination, unless there's like some other indie animated feature that would go and make its rounds in festivals and grab a lot of people's attention. That could be a possibility too. But honestly, I could see, I see Marcel the Shell with Shoes On getting a higher chance to be nominated, or at the very least has a higher chance compared to Apollo 10.5 and Eternal Springs, which I know it does sound like a betrayal that I'm going with Marcel the Shell with Shoes On instead of going with the Canadian animated documentary, but I'm just being a bit realistic here. So yeah, honestly, there's not necessarily a whole lot to go and discuss here, but it's great to see that there is a nomination going on, that they can be nominated, but that doesn't necessarily that they will be, because again, there's a lot of tough competition that they have to go and face. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see early next year who could legitimately be nominated at the Oscars, or maybe later at the end of this year, who's going to get nominated for award season. All right, so with that said, though, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, what do you all think about the fact that those 3 movies can be nominated, or that they got a shot at being nominated? And also, do you think those movies could actually be nominated? Let me know what you guys think on this. Okay, let's see. Well, they did learn their lesson. Marcel the Shell with shoes on, maybe, but tough competition. You also got the Disney films, Netflix movies, but also Suzume no Tojimari, the next film from Makoto Shinkai. And if it comes out this season, the Ernest and Celestine sequel. Speaking of the Oscars, who heard that Jimmy Kimmel is going back to host? Exactly. And that, you know, exactly. And that's why even Marcel has some tough competition. Thank you, Bri. You do bring up some very good points where, yeah, like you got the next Makoto Shinkai that could have a very solid chance to be nominated because, well, I mean, yeah, Marcel is from A24, but let's not forget that G-Kids is also a massive competitor at the Oscars, and that they will make sure that they can at least walk out with a nomination. And then there's also, yeah, like if if the Ernest and Celestine sequel can actually count for this year, for the next award season, or the one that's coming up, then yeah, honestly, it's gonna be real tough. So we will have to wait and see on that. Let's see. This is great that films like Apollo 10.5 can qualify for best animated sequel, for best animated feature. So I hope some of them do well during the upcoming awards season competition. I have never seen or heard of Eternal Springs, but I have seen Marcel the Shell with shoes on back in the summer, and it looked adorable and cute, and definitely be added to one of my favorite films of 2022. So I wish the film luck in getting nominated. Other than that, I'm happy to see some films that will be qualified at the Oscars. Right? I don't like the Academy since they seem to be out of touch with reality and the fact that they see animated movie as stuff for kids rather than an art form. Honestly, I thought last year was such an embarrassment for them of how they disregard entirely as kids stuff. If I had my way, I would change up with when animation is where animation is equal and respected just as much as live action. P.S. It's my birthday tomorrow. Oh, happy birthday then. All right, let's see now. What else do we got? Okay, I'll go with this one. I'm honestly really happy that Apollo 10.5 is now eligible to be nominated at the Oscars. Honestly, I really do believe no matter the kind of style used in animated films, they do deserve to be recognized as animated films and deserve attention at the Oscars. However, I do think there will be a chance it won't get a nomination because of all the competition, but we'll have to wait and see. And I gotta say, dude, you do bring up a very good point, and I absolutely agree with you right there. Let's see, what other comment? Okay, there's not a whole lot, but I'll read one more before we move on to our final story. Let's see. I was not happy about the Oscars not considering Apollo as an animated feature. Let's think about it. There are plenty of animated films in the past and present that do use rotoscoping. Like you said, Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings is a great example. Almost the majority of that movie is made with rotoscope, especially the fight scenes. If we had that award show mindset on those, would they not count as animated features? Now, if you excuse me, I'm gonna go wait for the Game Awards. Exactly, man. So, tune in for the final story that we have for you today, because trust me, oh, we're gonna go and cap this one off with a wild one. Now that we finished off our talk about award season, and we'll probably go back to that soon in the next few weeks, the next one, we're really gonna go into the crazy. All right, now this is it. We have now finally made it into the one and only grand finale. And with this grand finale, well, I know some people are thinking that, oh, maybe it's just another bonus miscellaneous and doesn't really have anything to do with animation. But oh, hold on a sec, there is that one connection to animation with this one. But that's not necessarily going to be the main subject of this, because what we will be talking about is in regards to the world of virtual reality. And there is now a prototype to a brand new form of virtual reality that will literally blow your mind. Now, I know that there are some people right now, they could be rolling their eyes thinking that, oh, come on, Matt. You know that you use that word literally a bit too much. It's not used properly in the sentence that I just said, considering that it's not gonna literally blow your mind now. Oh, no. That's where you are wrong, actually. I did use that term literally very properly on this one, because when I say that this new virtual reality experience will blow your mind, I actually literally mean that this is a new virtual reality system that's going to explode your head. Yes, welcome folks to the real Nerve Gear. Now, what happened is that Palmer Luckey, who is known as the creator of the Oculus Rift, has created a brand new virtual reality system, or a brand new virtual reality hardware, in which it allows you to go and play games, but when you have a game over in the game, you have a game over for real, in which the system will go and actually blow your head. Now, the animation connection that it has over here is that apparently Palmer Luckey was inspired by the anime Sword Art Online. And apparently in Sword Art Online, there is this, there's apparently this virtual reality system called Nerve Gear, in which it allows you to go and play this new epic game. But if you end up dying in the game, you end up dying for real. And apparently that sparked the imagination of Palmer Luckey to actually go and create a real virtual reality system that will end up unsubscribing the player to their lives if they have a game over in the game. In fact, reading from my source here on Business Insider, this is what Palmer Luckey actually stated in his blog when he created the prototype. It states here, "The idea of tying your real life to your virtual avatar has always fascinated me. You instantly raise the stakes to the maximum level and force people to fundamentally rethink how they interact with the virtual world and the players inside it. Only the threat of serious consequences can make a game feel real to you and even every other person in the game." So the dude apparently just wanted to really raise the stakes when it comes to playing video games. And so far, we actually do have the prototype right over here. There it is, the real Nerve Gear system. Now, you may notice that unlike any other virtual reality headsets, there are these three little things over here. What do they do? Well, the thing is that apparently in Sword Art Online, what they would do is that they would go and transmit powerful microwaves if you have a game over, and that would just go and immediately cause the entire body to just permanently shut down. Well, unfortunately, we don't actually have that technology. That is still considered science fiction. So what Palmer Luckey decided to do is just literally put freaking explosives onto the person's head. Yes, that is actually what it is. That's what I mean by blowing people's minds up. That if you end up getting a game over, the bombs will activate and it will explode the person's head. That's apparently one way of giving them a permanent game over. So yeah, and apparently Luckey even stated himself, when an appropriate game over screen is displayed, the charges fire, initially destroying the brain of the user. Yeah, that is one way of doing it, of course. And he even capped off his blog as he actually stated, it is also, as far as I know, the first non-fiction example of a VR device that can actually kill the user, it won't be the last. So, yeah. And by the way, just to go incorrect, even though like this right over here, like I don't think it's actually real. They actually stated that it's just a piece of official art for now, but Palmer Luckey did actually went and create a legitimate VR system that would go and explode people's heads if they have a game over. So that's apparently the thing. You know, let me be right back. I just need to go and let me go and quickly get something, actually. Oh my god. you know, I just gotta go and say, it's actually kind of funny that, you know, it kind of makes me wonder, where did he get the idea specifically to go and use explosions? I know that he stated that his source of inspiration was Sword Art Online, but why the fridge do you have to go in such an over-the-top way? Why do you decide explosions? Why do you decide to blow up that person's head? Like, really, did he watch The Muppet Show and just want that kind of scenario to happen? And it was like, oh, well, that user just got a game over. Well, we'll make sure that he ends off with a bang. Did somebody say bang? Oh my god, it's just absolutely ridiculous to hear that this would legitimately be a thing that he would want to do, but also the reasoning is just insane. Now, I know that some people might think that Palmer Luckey just went off his rocker of the fact that he would go and create this. Well, the reality of the situation is that Palmer Luckey, well, he has actually been known to be a little bit not there in the head, especially with the fact that he's actually a very notorious Trump supporter. Like, he's actually been very well known to be funding the Republican GOP and to be, to be 100% all for Donald Trump. So, of course, if there was a guy who would be insane enough to go and do something like that, it would actually be someone like Palmer Luckey. But still, the reasoning, though, is absolutely crazy, I find, because the thing is with Palmer Luckey is that, like, so far, the reasoning that he tried to go and explain it is to go and raise up the stakes, to make it a lot more dangerous for the player, to really have them fully commit to playing this game, or else they would go and actually lose their lives for it. You know, that I find to be just crazy, because I feel like this is something that, that you hear stories would warn you about. Honestly, for me, the first thing that I've heard about with this story, it makes me think of that meme, like you probably have heard of this, where where you got these tech, like these Elon Musk tech people, and they would go and say, "We are proud to announce that we have invented the thing that was made famous by the beloved novel. This is why you should not invent the thing." And that's exactly it. Like, we have heard of this before, of like the concept of, if you die in the game, you die for real. Like, we've heard of that plenty of times before, and one of the big examples is, of course, Sword Art Online. But that's like, even though they do make interesting stories, that doesn't necessarily mean they make for great ideas that we would want to go and do. That's a little bit too far, like, that's not necessarily something I would be down for. Like, yeah, I love playing video games. I love playing Mario and Kirby. I love playing Pokemon. But that doesn't mean I'm going to go and risk my life for it. I'm not going to literally attach my life to the Pikachu that I have. So when the Pikachu faints, my head just blows up. I ain't going to be down for that, But for real, though, I did actually have a talk with my family about this. Like, I had some relatives come over, and we all were chatting. And one of the subjects that we brought up was actually this VR headset that would end up blowing people's heads if you end up getting a game over. And some actually did argue that there is a legitimate idea going behind this, and it's not all insane as you may think. Because the one argument for this is that, well, I'm not going to go and use the actual word because of Twitch and YouTube reasons, but like basically the best use for a virtual headset like this would be for medically assisted unsubscription to life, if you get what I mean. Basically, if there's someone who decided that they don't want to live anymore and that they want to go and find an alternative or like a cool way that they could have their choice of how they want to leave this planet, well, then they could choose to go out like a video game, that the last thing that they will ever see is a game over screen, and then suddenly that's it. It's over. So maybe there is that argument for that, but then again, I like, let's be honest here. The whole subject of, well, I'm just going to use the initials of MAS, that's already very taboo, and it is understandably very divisive. So I can understand some of the arguments for it, but at the same time, I understand the arguments against it. And still, though, if there is going to be a way that you want to go, would you want to go with your head exploding? Like, honestly, I can understand if it's something like a lot more peaceful, like putting in a lethal injection that would permanently put you to sleep. Okay, you know, that's a nice way of going, but can there be any other way where it doesn't damage your body? Like, if you're gonna have, like, if I'm gonna play this and suddenly I get a game over, I don't know about you, but I would rather have an open casket funeral than a closed casket. You know, I would love my head to actually be intact for this one, because like now we're going into like ridiculous movie levels. Like this is almost like this is almost like freaking comedy. And not to mention, like, there's also other problematic factors about, like, what about if there's a what if how can I put this? What if there's like hacking that can be involved? Like, if that thing does connect to the internet, then they are going to be in trouble, because you know there are going to be those people who will try to go and access to it, that they're going to go and try to hack into the system. And let's just say they want to recreate the ending of The Kingsmen. Like, you know that scene where you have that grand finale where everybody's heads just explode in like a fireworks-like fashion? That's going to be what we could end up with. There are going to be those hackers that they will say they don't care if they see like they don't care what the progress they're doing. They don't care if they're far away from a game over. They'll just make everyone's heads blow up. There's also that problem like right there. And like, I could go on and on and on about all the issues that do come with this. Like, all the reasons why this is just absolutely ridiculous. But honestly, it's just insane that someone even thought that it's a good idea to go and build this in the first place. Now, I'm just going to say right now, I highly doubt, even if in our lifetime, that we would ever see this go like on retail as much as like the Oculus Rift or something like that. I think it's just going to be in very specific places where they're going to be charging thousands of dollars for it and make you sign hundreds of papers so that the company doesn't get sued. But still, though, I don't think we'll ever see that actually happen. Like, for now, it is just a prototype, but still very concerning that there are people out there who would even think this is a good idea to actually bring this to our reality. I don't know about you, but I think I can live the rest of my life never playing a virtual reality headset such as this. You know, honestly, keep those bombs away from my head. Thank you very much. Okay, now, with that said, though, I would like to go into the chat wall, and now I want to ask you all, what do you think about this creation? What do you think about Palmer Luckey's deadly virtual headset? Would you be willing to try it out? Would you rather want to stay far away from it? And would you actually find an actual use for it? Let me know what you think. All right, let's see. By the way, I'm all out of water, but yeah, I got a little bit. Anyways, I know some streamers like to add some punishment when they get to lose, but I think this guy has taken things a bit too far. I know that being inspired by a fictional work can make some great things, but actually creating the big unsubscription button for life might be a terrible thing. In fact, who even allowed this to happen? Now, if you excuse me, I'll continue my playthrough of Dark Souls with my VR headset. Wait, something's weird about my headset. Insert Sword Online theme here. Oh, good one, good one. Oh my god. Imagine playing Dark Souls on that thing. Yeah, goodbye. Yeah, you might, yeah, like now they're pretty much gonna go and highlight the "you die" screen. Like that thing is gonna be taken to a whole new level. Okay, let's see now. Somehow I don't see this thing being FCC compliant, let alone having good sales. This man is a clear and present danger to himself and others, and needs to be institutionalized immediately. The virtual boy caused enough injury for gamers. Slapping explosives to it just seems like all overkill. Pun all the way intended. Okay, this is absolutely insane. As much as I love video games, I have never seen this idea of a VR headset that would make your head explode is just nuts. And I'm convinced this person escaped a mental asylum. Seriously, I would like to keep my life intact. Thank you very much. Yeah, again, keep in mind, dude is a major Trump supporter. So, of course, this is an individual who has no value on other people's lives. So, of course, he would go and make something as insane as a virtual headset that would explode your head. Oh, let's see now. Let's see, what other comments can we go into? And this is why I never bothered getting myself a VR set, especially with having a screen so close to your eyes, which might damage them over a long period of time. I only played it sparingly in a friend of mine's house. I will say, though, this does give me an idea for a villain in my animations and comics who creates dangerous VR headsets, and he's insane. Now, who would be the perfect voice for him? Maybe you, AniMat, all joking aside. Jesus, he needs to be put in Arkham Asylum for this. Okay, let's see now. Okay, what the fridge am I looking at? So, I don't have any words and I'm not even a gamer. I don't want the game to tell me, off with your head. I'm still confused and it looks dangerous since it is the last story. Just curious, to remind you, Matt, don't forget the Criterion release of WALL-E will be out in a week. Yes, that is going to be out. I think I'm going to read one more comment before we go and cap this off. After hearing this, pardon my language, but holy effing crap, what was this guy thinking? Seriously, who would want to buy this? This is, well, yeah, this is an unsubscription to life. Who would think Palmer Luckey was the an inspiration? No, he's not an inspiration to SAO. SAO inspired him to do that. I will never buy the headset, but I doubt it will be released because this idea is just bonkers. If this even happens, this guy will go to jail for life. No, I don't think so. Like, if this goes out to the world, as I said before, there are going to be papers and there are going to be a lot of legal stuff behind it that will make sure that if you're going to use it, then the people who created it will not face any form of consequences whatsoever. Like, I'm sure they will go and think about the legal aspect if they go, like, fully push this even further. And with that said, that should do it for this week's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Thank you all so much for joining on this crazy adventure with me. Definitely been a fun-filled episode, and once again, may we all pay our respects to Kevin Conroy. Such a perfect Batman he is. And tune in next week for more crazy adventures going on in AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, or whatever crazy stories that we may cover. So with all that said and done, I would like to say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes.